People who have been Santa at the mall. What's the creepiest thing a kid has asked for Christmas? This is a grim one. My ex's dad owned a restaurant and I worked there part-time in my late teens, so I witnessed this. Christmas Eves were usually really busy, so to earn more money his wife came up with the idea to pretend to be Santa for a few hours on Christmas Eve and charge something like £2 per kid. This one dad came up to my ex's dad. My ex's dad was Santa, not me, and paid the money for his kid, and then went to the toilet with his other child, a baby, leaving the kid with Santa. Santa asked the kid what he wanted for Christmas, and apparently the kid whispered into his ear, "I want daddy to go away." He asked the kid to explain why, and apparently the dad had beaten up the mother a few hours prior and had locked her in the shed in their back garden before taking the kid and his baby sister out to eat because they had been crying hysterically and he was worried the neighbors would hear and get suspicious. Santa then asked the kid for his address and told my ex, who worked in the kitchen, to call the police. I think some police went to the house and then some turned up at the restaurant to arrest the dad. A social worker also came to collect the kids. We never found out what happened to them after that, but it ended up in the local paper and got loads of promotion for the restaurant. Years ago, I was in line with my 6-year nephew for his visit with Santa. When Santa asked my nephew what he wanted for Christmas, he said, "Could you get mommy and daddy some pajamas? 'Cause they don't wear any." The whole line broke up, including Santa. I wasn't a Santa, but my roommate was. This was at a spot in East Brooklyn, a super impoverished area riddled with a lot of drugs and violence. He said it was disturbing how many kids had literally nothing, so they asked for the most basic things. Or they just asked to get out of shitty situations. He said stuff like this was common. "I wish my mom would stop hitting me. I wish my brother was still alive. He got shot. I wish we had enough money for a microwave. I wish my daddy would stop doing heroin." Stuff like that was everywhere. Former mall Santa even bought a professional suit because I hated the one they provided. I got a few creepy stories that involves college students and adults. Kids, a little girl no more than 5 was screaming bloody murder when it was her turn. Kids get scared of Santa, not that uncommon. Her dolled up mom was having none of her child's tantrum and the elves were pleading with her to not put the girl on my lap. She didn't and her kid instantly stopped screaming. Just had this look of pure hatred at her mom for the remainder of the photo session. I swear, I thought I was on candid camera. Before YouTube y'all, it looked so acted out. Attempting to talk to the little terror, I asked her what she wanted for Christmas. She looked at me and softly said just above a whisper, "For my mommy to die." Noped myself to a break after that one. It was the inside joke for the rest of the mall Santa season, whispering between kids, "I want you to die." College students, one rather lonely overweight gal kept getting in line several times a week to get pictures with Santa. I was in college myself back then, and I'm pretty sure she was working herself up to asking me out. Extremely shy, awkward and had some hygiene issues. She only paid for one of the photos, but the elves remember seeing her throughout the week when I wasn't on shift. Apparently only got pictures with me. Adults, I was in my 20s and the perverted things the MILFs whispered into my ear while sitting on Santa's lap were definitely something for the naughty list to be sure. It became so frequent for the younger Santas to get groped, teased, and molested that the elves were told to stay close when adults got their pictures taken. Elf security to be sure. Never was a Santa, but once while being the Easter bunny I had a kid tell me, "I wish I could poop chocolate eggs like you." I was Santa for corporate holiday parties one year. I was in my 30s, but used a spray for my beard. Looked lifelike. Kids dug it. So did one mom/aunt who threw a kid off my lap, hers, I hope, and whispered that she wanted Santa to fuck her from behind while pulling her hair. She didn't seem to be drunk. I was very uncomfortable. Then the meeting planner told me she does that every year. I was a Santa during 3 college years. The most memorable moment, a sad one, was a young boy who asked if I could bring him a new daddy because his had died during military service and his mommy was lonely. I saw the look of sorrow and pain in his pretty mother's face, even as she was trying to make Christmas special for her son. Had a kid ask Santa, "What happens to all the dead kids' toys?" Not a Santa, but I remember being in hospitals a lot as a kid with serious stomach issues. I remember asking a mall Santa if I could get better and not die once when I was about 8 or 9 years old. When the mall Santa looked at me sadly and said he couldn't do that, almost in tears, I asked if my old dog that died as a puppy could be brought back as a zombie so we could both be dead together, and if I could come back as a zombie too so I could stay with my parents so they wouldn't be sad. Looking back, that was really creepy, and I think I broke the poor guy's heart. I have been Santa for several seasons. I had a special needs young woman, approximate age of 40, emotional of 12 perhaps, ask me to make her boyfriend quit hitting her. I told a lady who was helping me to get the deputy sheriff at the event to come see me. I whispered to him what she had said. He came back 10 minutes later and asked if I would speak to her in a private area. There the deputy and Santa got a clearer, but very disturbing picture of how she had been repeatedly abused. In May the deputy let me know the offender had been sentenced to 8 years and the girl had been relocated to new care facility. Just sad rather than creepy. Kid came in and wanted nothing except from a matchbox car. He told me how every week he heard his mom sneak into his bedroom and take the pocket money that she had given him to buy cigarettes. I felt so terrible for him that I gave him 3 to 4 different presents rather than just one. Not a mall Santa, but I was the Best Buy box for a number of holiday seasons in the early 2000s. One year we set up a chair where you could take a picture with me. Soon it turned into people just telling me what they wanted for Christmas. Sometimes I'd have a stack of $5 gift cards and I'd give them out randomly. One kid sits down and says he wants to kick me in the crotch. The suit was heavily padded and there was a good 10 inches or so from the bottom of the box to my love spots. Being 19 and wanting to put on a good show, I said sure. Kid winds up and musters the best kick he had. I played it up, even though he actually hit my thigh. I remember everyone thinking it was so funny. I loved the early holiday seasons working there. Some of my best memories came from those times. We had a fantastic management team who were like family. Then it all changed and everything went sour. Such is life, I guess. I wasn't a mall Santa, but I played one of his elves. I think the worst thing a kid ever asked for was some reindeer sausage. He figured Santa could slaughter one of his reindeer for the venison. Not a Santa, but I worked at a mall taking photos of kids visiting Santa, so I heard a lot. I don't remember anything super creepy. Several kids asked for their parents to be home for Christmas. I live next to a huge US Army base and the parents were in the armed forces. One kid asked for a remote to use on his baby sibling. He wanted to use the mute button. A few wanted their grandparents to come back, passed away, or for a family member to be cured of cancer. One wanted a dog that couldn't die. I wasn't a mall Santa, but one of the elves who took the pictures. We had 2 Santas. One was narcoleptic, and we had to keep waking him up, and the other would bring his own homemade bags of coal to give to the kids who would cry, and we'd have to try to seize all the bags before he started his shift. That was a fun job. I was the Santa for an office party. It was my first year with the company and apparently the tradition went that the newest guy had to wear the suit. Also something about how the suit was cursed. In a ho. Skip forward to the party. I'm going around taking pictures with people I barely knew at the time, and then it gets to where presents were being handed out. Now I had sat in the back because the CEO was the one handing out presents. Didn't want to confuse people where the real money was lol and minding my own business. This woman, think mid-40s kinda cougar Y, walks up to me drunk out of her mind and she sits on my lap. Now I'm all for keeping character, so I ask why hello, what would you like for Christmas? And she says, without hesitation, I'd love for my husband to fuck me in the ass while you watched. Now, when presented with the opportunity, I maintained composure and politely declined while attempting to get her off my lap. After she said it's fine, my husband's good with it, let me get him, and that's when she screams out Pat at the top of her lungs. I shit you not, the whole party heard and turned to see the new guy with the CEO's wife on his lap. Now remember when I said cursed? Apparently this wasn't the first time and others had accepted the offer. I still work there. Edit from a separate comment. Well, after I think the CEO figured out what was going on, he politely segued into his assistant handing out the rest of the presents. The room managed to get back to normal talking levels after that, like same shit different year type. She gets up and goes over to him when he's about halfway to the back of the room. Whispers I don't even know what into his ear while looking at me. He walked up to me, didn't mention anything, just handed me a 50 and said good job keeping character throughout the night. Hope you stick around to see another guy stuck in that next year with a completely unreadable face. That was the most confusing Christmas party I've ever been to. I wasn't Santa, but I have a good Santa story from being a kid. We used to be really poor for a long time, up until my last year of middle school, and until first grade we lived at my grandma's house, who was in a much more fortunate life situation than us, and I have a lot of memories of kids getting better presents than me, and being disappointed with Christmas as a child for a while, but this was probably best Christmas I've ever had. I used to pray every night for about a year or so. This was when I was 4, for a goldfish. I did it for like 30 minutes every night when I thought everybody else was asleep, and turns out my parents had been listening, so they had hired my neighbor that happened to have the big beard and all the other characteristics Santa might have to dress up as Santa and wait in my grandma's house on the couch, holding the bowl of 2 goldfish that my parents had bought me. We were all coming back from going out on Christmas Eve, and my mom let me unlock the door to the house, only to see motherfucking Santa sitting on my couch with the only thing I wanted as a kid. I was the happiest kid on earth that day. My fish died when I accidentally dropped them in the garbage disposal while cleaning my fish bowl like 3 months later. Not creepy and not mall Santa, but I dressed up as Santa for Halloween one year and sat on the porch handing out candy from a sack. One kid looked excited until his dad said something along the lines of, "Now remember, that's not the real Santa." I gave him some candy, then I reached into the second sack and pulled out a big ass, hand-carved, wooden monster truck and handed that to him as well. Kid thought it was great. Dad, not so much. I have a cringy ass story about a mall Santa. I was a freshman in college at my local mall. This mall is basically dead, hardly any foot traffic at all, unless it's the weekend and I see a mall Santa. I accidentally make eye contact, and he waves me over. I walk on over to him smiling, and has doing the whole Santa thing. I'm around 22 at this time, and I'm playing along for fun, to not make it all awkward. His elves, girls around my age, start talking to me, and you can tell them and Santa were bored af and just looking for someone to talk to. Well, anyway, they asked if I wanted to buy a picture with Santa. I was poor as shit at the time and was definition not paying the $20 for a picture. I started to panic internally because I was like, oh shit, did they just talk to me for the last 5 minutes because they expected me to buy a picture? One of the elves says she bets my parents would love it, and that's when the horrible idea clicked in my head. I looked her in the eye and said, oh yeah, sorry, no, my parents are dead. They aren't BTW. Dead silence from Santa and the elves. Oh. One of the elves pipes in that she lost her dad a year ago, so she knows and understands what it's like. They then talk to me for about 20 more minimum, trying to make me feel better. I felt like shit the whole rest of the month, and I'll still think about it sometimes and cringe hard. I remember when I was a little kid, my sister asked Santa for a pony. I was next, so I asked for rat poison for the pony. 10 yo, me was an edgy little asshole. One kid got on my lap and asked me if I could give him a bag of wiggly rice. I asked him what that was, and he said he ate some off a piece of chicken he found in the backyard. He said it was so yummy he wishes he had a whole bag of it. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Goodbye.